Okay, to set the ball rolling very quickly, what do we have over the next 2 days? It's always a difficult choice because there's so much happening in digital. What can you cover and what should you cover in the 2 days was a conversation we had. And we zeroed in on 5 themes, and we'll quickly walk through those 5 themes. So first and foremost, obviously, about the way the internet is evolving in India. Now we have about 150 million users. It looks like the growth is going to come from the mobile internet as a usage platform. The projections show that 500 million users are going to be in India, and more than half of those will be from mobile. And therefore, the one track which we chose as an important focus area was the mobile economy and can I have this slide? Yeah, okay. The mobile economy and location-based marketing. That's a very important theme. We'll be spending a significant part of first half today on that. We'll have an academic feature from Professor Ananya Ghosh, and then a set of panelists discussing that topic. Secondly, we thought that today real-time marketing has become relevant. The hyper-connected world, we spoke about how everything is happening so fast and people have to react in quick time. So we have built a theme around real-time marketing, and we will have industry speakers really going deep into what's going on and technologically how real-time marketing is being enabled. So that will be the second theme of today. There is a lot of emphasis these days on gamification, and the way you see a lot of platforms have developed, whether it's Foursquare or otherwise. Gamification as a concept is being brought into business, and a lot of business problems or challenges are being solved through design thinking and gamification. So we've got very seasoned speakers on the topic and researchers, Professor Kevin Verback and Mr. Batra, Dheeraj Batra, who will be covering gamification. That's towards the end of day 1. Day 2, we'll be spending almost half a day on new innovations in social media. So innovation in social media is a very important theme. Actually, today's first industry keynote is also going to be aligned to that topic, and Kirthiga will be taking us through what's happening in social media, what's the future of digital, and a significant part of tomorrow is dedicated towards innovation in social media. Last but not the least, we have lots happening in the e-commerce market or the e-retailing market in India. A lot of people have got into it, and it looks like it's a little different from the other markets or developed markets. So we thought we'll discuss a little bit more in terms of e-retailing strategies in India, what's working, what's not working, how the global players are aligning to India's requirements and the type of market that India is. So we have a track on that. Those are the 5 themes which will be the important focus areas, and there will be a few sessions on smaller themes as well. But to kick off and set the ball rolling, So for all of you who are obviously, covering the session or tweeting about the session, the hashtag for today's summit is #DigitalSummit. Please use that while you tweet or cover the event. With that, we would like to introduce the first keynote speaker of the day. The industry keynote is from Kirthiga. And to say a few words about Kirthiga, Kirthiga is the head of Facebook in India. Before Facebook, she was vice president in Phoenix Technologies. Prior to that, she was at Motorola. She has had a stint with Booz Allen Hamilton as well as Silicon Graphics. She is an MBA from Stanford and an MS from Syracuse. Before that, she has had her BE from Ambedkar University in Mumbai. She was featured as Business Today's hottest young executives, Fortune India's top 50 most powerful women in India, and Impact Digital's top 100 influentials in the country. A very warm welcome to Kirthiga, please.
John, and my clicker. Can I get the clicker?
Yeah.
Well, good morning. It is such a pleasure to be back at the ISB. It's always great to be back here. And it's especially great to be back at annual events like this, the Digital Summit 2013. It gives us an opportunity to reflect on the discussions of the past year. Actually, quick show of hands, how many of you were here last year? All right. a good moment to reflect, as I said, on the discussions of last year. Think about how far we have come, and think about how much more there is to come. This is my Facebook timeline. As you know, this is the way that people on Facebook introduce themselves to the rest of the world. If you go to my Facebook profile, my Facebook timeline, you will see that I was at the Everest Base Camp last year, and my cover picture is that with the Everest peak, during sunrise. And every time I look at this, I just relive just the thrill of seeing the Everest peak, the top of the world, with my naked eyes. And guess what? I was uploading these pictures, the crew that went, we were uploading these pictures all the way up the trek. And I had my friends asking me, really? There's like internet connection all the way to the base camp? And if you think about it, it's pretty staggering, right? It's pretty staggering to think about the digital now. I honestly don't think we step back enough to appreciate the digital now as we think about the digital future. So I want to take a couple of minutes to just reflect on the digital now before we go to the future. At Facebook, our mission is to make the world more open and connected, and that mission manifests itself in over 1 billion people connecting and sharing on Facebook. Over 800 million of these users connect on the mobile device. We already talked about mobile as we opened this session. In India, by the way, the numbers are 82 million monthly active users, out of that 62 million connecting on the mobile device, so highly indexed on mobile. And if you look at the advertiser side, you have over 1 million advertisers who are looking at Facebook to be able to talk to all of the people who matter to them every day, everywhere, where people already are discovering what matters most to them. Those large numbers behind that are billions and billions of stories. They are stories of the small things. They are stories of me finding out about my friend's child's first step. Yeah? There's sharing excitement about Lenin being available in bookstores in India. There's all of the small sharing that happens, and then there's the big and the bold. All of the brave men, women, girls, and boys who made Arab Springs happen. All of what is happening to make people's lives better. And there's one particular story that I would love to share with you from New Delhi, India. If we could play the video.
I have no idea when to get started. Who am I? Why am I here? I was diagnosed with tuberculosis meningitis, which complicated into hydrocephalus. And that's when I started forgetting things. I just remember waking up with no memory. I couldn't even recognize my own reflection. I had to get used to this idea that this is how I look. Absolutely nothing made sense. I had no idea what relationships meant, that you are my father, that you are my mother, and this was my brother. I did not speak to anybody because I didn't recognize them. And I didn't know what to say. I lost 27 years of experiences. It's the past that makes you who you are, right? So, who am I? When I was well enough to use and work on a computer, I started browsing through my history list, and there was this website called Facebook on it. And then it suggested that these are the people you may know. And that's how it started. Memories. They're not lost. They're there somewhere. If I can recognize with one frame, I can identify the pieces of the puzzle. Imagine if that were one there, how would I feel connected with you? That's how I've been living my whole life.
Every time I see this video, it sends chills down my spine. And think about it. This is the digital now, the digital now. So let's then use this baseline to think about the future. And there are 5 trends that I want to highlight in our time together. The first trend is something that everyone in this audience already knows about. What is the first trend? I heard that. What are the other? Social, Facebook, mobile. So mobile is the winner there. We spoke about mobile, and the first trend that we see is very much mobile. And I think next year, this session might very well be called the future of mobile, with digital and mobile being synonymous. So let's talk about what this trend means. And what I also want you to picture as we go through the 5 different trends is the exponential curve. Because each trend in itself is world-changing, high impact, but when you add all of them together, the compounding impact, it just has an exponential impact in terms of what happens when all of these different trends come together. So keep that exponential curve in mind. Mobile. Mary Meeker said this, Mary Meeker from Kleiner Perkins. She said, there was a time when people went to concerts and danced. Today, they go to concerts, they take pictures, they take videos, they share, and they tweet. Yeah? The world is going from analog to digital, and within that, it's very much going mobile. 2013, this year, is the year where the amount of time spent on television and the amount of time spent on the internet and mobile, they're at that tip-over point where it's almost equal, 2013. And that pace is just accelerating. Why is that happening? The mobile is such a personal device. It is truly an extension of yourself. The one place where you have undivided attention, where you're taking pictures, documenting life, connecting, communicating with your friends and your family. It has brought about a timelessness about it that we really have not seen before. We find that about half of us are using our phone as the last thing that we use just before we go to bed. About a third actually use it at the dinner table. Not great practice, but that's what we do. And further, about a third admit to even using it in the bathroom. Yeah? This device is truly, truly going with us everywhere. So I know mobile is on everyone's mind, no matter what you do, which sector you're in. And the challenge and the notion that I would pose to this audience is to step it up and not just think about mobile as a trend, but to think about mobile first. The numbers here tell you why you need to think mobile first. There are 1 billion smartphones in the world globally out of 5 billion phones. The target market for smartphones is just beginning with another 4 billion to capture. There was a crossover in 2011 where there were more people accessing the internet on the smartphone than on their desktop. Again, a trend that continues to increase. Think mobile first, think mobile best. I'll share a little bit about how it impacted us at Facebook. It was a trend that we began to see and respond to in the last 12 months. And it made us completely change how we do many things. It changed how we hire. It changed our investment in training our core engineers in thinking mobile first. We had deep dive sessions every single week to help people think about mobile first before the desktop. And when it comes to India, it's also about thinking not just about smartphones, but about feature phones. It's about thinking about languages, truly mobile first and mobile best. And you can see the results. In terms of the user side for Facebook, the graph shows the usage of Facebook on the mobile. And if you turn attention to the business side and you think about the impact that it's had on our monetization strategy, here is your newsfeed, the place that people discover what matters most to them. And as you're scrolling through all of the information from your friends, you also see content from brands, product, services that you care about. The type of engagement, the type of targeted reach that's possible is what has driven our monetization strategy to pivot around mobile. And today, we have Q2 2013 results, 41% of our revenue on the advertising side coming from mobile, up from 0%, right? So that's pretty transformational in terms of what can happen in a matter of a year. We are seeing sparks of this trend of people thinking mobile first and mobile best all across the globe. I want to highlight one spark that started here at the ISB, and that's a company called Move and Sync by an ISB alumni, Dipesh Agarwal. It solves the challenge that many companies, especially in India, are very familiar with. The cost of employee transport continues to go up, changes not just on a monthly basis, not just on a weekly basis, but every single day at schedule change, and you have to reroute different routes, make sure that it's efficient and it's effective. Okay? This is a company that thought mobile first, mobile best, and is focused on solving that problem. There's something else very interesting about this company, which is the extent that they use information to drive their innovation, which then takes me from trend 1 to trend 2, which is we are entering an age where innovation will be synonymous with how well we are able to use information. I have the fortune of meeting many amazing people at Facebook, and I'm humbled to have the opportunity to work with them. One such person that I met is Sam Lesson. Sam is part of our product team, and he was down here for our One APAC conference that we had in Taipei earlier this year. And he shared with us the data from Wall Street Journal that talked about how, from the beginning of time till 2003, we had 5 billion gigabytes of data generated. Today, guess how much time it takes for the same amount of data to be generated? Let's take a guess today. We can shout it out. 1 month, good one. Anyone else? 1 day? 3.5 minutes. Anything else? All right. From the beginning of time till 2003, the amount of data that was generated through that period today is generated every 10 minutes. So you are the winner, you are the closest. Every 10 minutes, that's the kind of data that's generated. And what does that let you do? He drew this graph for us, which talks about how in today's world, There is the movement of physical atoms. It's where how information gets from one place to another, how you go from one place to another, a book moves from one place to another, and the pace at which the bytes are moving. And how clearly today is an age where the bytes are moving much faster than the physical atoms. There was a time where you would go to the West End and you had to tell them what your preferences were, and that's how they would know what your preferences were. Today, even before you reach the West End in Menlo Park or the West End in Delhi, they already know what your preferences are and they have set it up for you. Just one simple example of how information is moving much faster than physical atoms. What does this allow us to do? And my clicker is not working. I want to talk about two examples about how this manifests itself. One is with Facebook and one is outside of Facebook. At Facebook, how many of you were early Facebook adopters, like 2003, 2005 timeframes? Wow. By the way, that is more people than that were here at ISB Digital Summit last year, so we should take a note of that. Fantastic. So for all of you early adopters, you have been through many, many changes in the product. You know that when we first started, it was pretty static, right? We didn't have photos, we didn't have videos, and we had a profile picture and information you could enter about yourself. And our thought was that the profile picture would be something that you change maybe every year, on your birthday or a special occasion, and that was what we thought when we launched the product. What did we see? We saw people changing it on a daily basis, like literally daily, they were changing their picture. And we realized that what people were doing was expressing to us in large numbers that they want to show where they are at different points of time, and that is as much part of their personality as all of the other data about them, and that led to the Photos product. I have countless other examples like this of us harnessing information that our users are telling us about what they want, our advertisers are telling us about the want, and that turning into innovation and product capabilities. Pretty profound. So when you're thinking about the future of digital, when you're thinking about building the next big company, the next big innovation, think about how it is that you can build into whatever you're doing the capability to gather those insights and to be able to act on those insights quickly, because it's going to be those capabilities that help make that difference. We'll now look at an example outside of Facebook to see how this whole phenomena of movement of atoms and movements of bytes manifests itself. We'll play the video. Pretty cool, huh? Think about the pace of information. Think about the pace of atoms. And no matter whether you're working on a physical product, whether you're developing the next big thing in e-com, in retail, think about this phenomena. Think about that curve. And remember that data is coming from all over. It's coming from the desktop. It's coming from your mobile phone. How many folks have the Nike band? Yeah? Okay. And I hope you're competing with each other, getting those points. I've had so many tips on how to make that counter tick. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming from wearables. They're coming from drivables, from flyables, from scannables. Like everything is generating data. And really, it's about us recognizing that and seeing how are we going to harness all of that and translate that into actionable insights. Now, we spoke about broad trends and how you respond to broad trends. I want to take that to the next trend, trend number 3, which is the flip side of that coin, which is not only can you respond to broad trends, but you can also have a very personalized approach thanks to the power of digital. And again, think about that compounding impact. On one hand, we see the phenomena that it's harder than ever to capture consumers' time. But on the other, we also find that it's easier than ever to have a very targeted message to the right audience at scale. I'm going to illustrate by using some business and marketing examples to see how you can take advantage and think about this particular trend. Okay? Example 1. You know, when Nokia was releasing their 205 Asha phone, this is the phone with the button on it. Our two teams sat together and they said, okay, you know, what is the right target group that would really care for this device and for whom this is the right next device? It became pretty obvious, pretty intuitive that we should target feature phone users. And there you go, they were able to have a very personalized message that appealed to what it is that people were using then and why is it that they might want to consider this device as their next device. Same example with Samsung. When they did their Galaxy 3 launch, they were able to look at the pool of people who had had their current device for about 3 years, knowing that that might be the time where they might want to swap devices and thinking about how is it that they can help those people find the right next device and make a decision about whether that one was the right one for them. You can think about this in a whole bunch of different verticals, different applications. Let's say you are a mobile music application, right? What you can do is look at people, take into account their real likes and real interests, because remember that for the first time ever, you have real identity that is expressed on this platform. And you can have a very personalized message that is personalized based on whether you're the rock type of music lover, whether you're the classical type of music lover, and really have a very personal message to them. We had Barclays that was doing NFL-themed credit cards, and they were launching their credit card. And they used this principle to have very targeted messages based on which one of the 32 teams that people had expressed a preference towards. And it just makes you sit up, right? If you have a generic message that says, here you go, you have an NFL theme card, versus, hey, this is a team that you love, you adore, you care for, it just makes you sit up and take notice. And they found that that personalization helped them drive a 40% greater conversion than any other platform that they had used. Real business results. You take that even one step further, and you think about how you can marry the offline with the online with the power of digital. If you are a retail store, you have your loyalty program, and you look there and you find that there are a set of people who have not come to your store for the last month. How can you help them, reach them through the power of digital, give them an incentive to come back to your store and have that offline drive to online come back to the offline world? Many, many examples here. And the beauty of how all of this adds up is that it lets all businesses be local businesses. I think all of us can relate to incidents where we walk up to a Kirana store and the shopkeeper there knows exactly which family you came from. They'll ask you about how your family is doing. They'll give you the right tea that they know your family uses, the right brand of oil, and they'll also tell you about a brand new cookie launch that you might be interested in. Or think about walking into your local bank, and again, the banker there knows that there's a shadi in the family, a wedding in the family, or there's a son going abroad, and is able to have the right conversation with you. For the first time ever, with the power of digital, you have the ability to have that same kind of personal connect, no matter how large you are, with people, your clients, your consumers. All businesses, local businesses, think about the notion of personalization. Okay. We're going to go now to trend 4, and we're going to step up the impact as we think about the exponential compounding aspect of all of the trends that we spoke about. And trend 4 is about equalizing. Digital is equalizing. Let's look at 2 examples, one on the community social side, one on the business side. We'll play a video. It's equalizing. I was at an event last evening where I met with Pallavi, who's the founder of the Mast Kalandar QSR chain. And she talked to me about how all of the cooks that are employed by Mast Kalandar, they are all on Facebook. She told me, she said, most of them don't know how to read and write, but they know how to use a phone and they know how to use Facebook. It's pretty profound when you step back and just think about the socio-economic impact of what this kind of digital access allows us to do. On the consumer, society, social side, as well as on the business side. This is an example of a company, Pigtails and Ponies. It started with 2 college students who were making headbands with bits of fabrics that they found in the local market. They uploaded their pictures on Facebook. They found an overwhelming response from their friends and families, and that made them stop and step back and think about, how can I take this to something bigger, something meaningful? And that was the start of their virtual business. They have since expanded from not just headbands, but to a whole set of hair accessories. And again, this is one story of many others of people using the power of platform to take their ideas and make them big, make them meaningful. We talked about 4 trends, the last 2 being personalization and equalizing. And truly, digital brings us the power of that. As we think about that, and as we think about the final trend, because we're going to really kick it up to a different notch as we think about trend number 5 and expand the horizon significantly. Because if you think about personalization, equalizing, all of the different trends that you spoke about, there was one prerequisite that was important if we have to deliver those great personalized services on digital, if we have to use digital as an equalizing medium, there is one prerequisite. And that prerequisite is that they have to have access to the internet. Yeah? If they don't have access to that, to the internet, to the information, to that opportunity, there's a lot that you cannot deliver in terms of the future of digital. So I really want all of us here, as we think about where we are and we think about the future of digital, to not just think about what's going to happen with the 1 billion people who have access to the internet today, but what about the 5 billion people who don't have access to the internet today? And how is it that we make that happen? So to me, the final theme that we'll touch upon today is that the future of digital is for every one of us. This is an ambitious goal, an ambitious vision, cannot be done by one single person, one single entity, and we are certainly thrilled with the launch of internet.org, which has come together to make this happen. It's a large partnership, private, public NGO, with the whole mission of connecting the next 5 billion. It's going to cause changes across the ecosystem. It's going to, we have companies like Qualcomm who are making changes at the network layer. Companies like Samsung, like Nokia, who are making devices cheaper and easier to access. And when you add all of this together, we will find that in the next 5 years, we will have networks that are 100 times more capable than where they are today, and that we have chipped away at this goal of connecting the next 5 billion people. There is research that proves that access to the internet, access to information, access to opportunity is directly correlated to creation of jobs and GDP growth. And that's the future of digital that all of us aspire to. We're going to look at a video that illustrates this concept, and that's my final video in my talk today.
I'm not referring to the absolute, infinite concept of universal peace and goodwill, of which some fantasy
A few
and
questions after
dream.
this.
This is a poster that you see all across the Facebook offices, all across the globe. We firmly believe that we are 1% done in our journey. And when I think about the future of digital, we are at the very beginning of the journey. It is all of the people in this room and outside this room that are going to make the future come true. As we think about mobile, as we think about harnessing information and driving innovation, as we think about personalization, lead to a world that's equalizing and make the future of digital for every one of us. We are 1% done. I could not be more excited to think about what we look back on a year from now, 5 years from now. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirthiga. That was wonderful insights into the future of digital. We'll open the floor for a few questions, another 10 minutes of Q&A. But there's one request. Keep the questions around the topic of future of digital. I know there are 2,000 questions around Facebook, etc. But it will be good if it is aligned, the questions are aligned to the topic today. And we'll open it for questions. Just raise your hand, somebody will be there.
Hey, Kirthiga, this is Roy.
Louder, I don't think the mic is working.
Hello. Yeah. So this effort is really great, but I have one concern here. Whether do you also put efforts to bring the cost of data services down? Because 100 rupees a month, 200 rupees a month is affordable by us.
Yeah.
Not an auto rickshaw driver, right?
Absolutely.
So the effort should be from the network operators, right? So do you also influence them?
Yeah. So it's a great question, fantastic question, right? Price is certainly a huge barrier, and we work with the entire ecosystem. We work very closely with the operators, we work with the mobile device manufacturers, we work with the mobile value-added services ecosystem, and we try to figure out how is it that we collectively can drive the price of data down. No, the ad that you saw here is about Facebook for 1 rupee, right? So again, it's a significant drop down compared to what we had before. We have device manufacturers like Nokia that says Facebook is available for free on a certain set of their devices. So it's very much a big part of making the internet available for the next 5 billion is how do we make it affordable, and then I'll also add other challenges like language access. So it is not a one-step process. We have to think about this holistically, including the pricing.
In keeping up with the future, I would like to ask, like we've seen so much talked about Facebook and Google and government interference. So do we foresee any changes, or do we foresee anything happening in that regard?
Yeah, so you must have seen, you know, the transparency report that we released a few days ago. So this is a world where this is a medium for people to express themselves, to connect and to share, and this will continue to be a medium where people can come to connect and share.
Hi, this side.
Where is the question coming from?
It's this side.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rahul Jain. Nice presentation, excellent one actually. A quick question, you know, throughout your presentation and the videos you played out, there was an emphasis on mobile.
Yeah.
Was there a conscious attempt not to talk about tablets, or is it implicitly, you know, covered when you say mobile, it's, you know, it covering tablets as well?
Yeah, so it absolutely covers tablets as well. It covers different shapes and forms. I use mobile because probably most of our current examples, our current sparks are around mobile, but tablets are key. I spoke about data coming from everywhere. Tomorrow there could be like again, a Google Glass, there could be a Nike Fuel Band, it could be any one of those devices that is serving as a medium to access the internet.
Okay, thank you.
The question is coming from here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you talked about targeted marketing or targeted reach.
Yes.
So in terms of Facebook in India,
yeah,
any examples of where you use targeted reach and you got better ROI offline as well as online through Facebook targeted reach versus a normal campaign?
Sure.
Can you share those examples? Yeah.
Yeah. So one example I'll share is Tata Docomo. So they had a business objective of driving prepaid recharges, and what they did was they knew the people who buy, say, 50 rupee, a card for 50 rupees, and it gets expired, and then 2 days later they come back and they renew it again. So what they were able to do using the platform was to be able to send a message saying, hey, you are 90% of your way through your prepaid card. It's time for you to renew. Let's give you an offer, and let's have you convert. So that's example one. Example two I'll give you is Reliance Trends. Okay? So what did Reliance Trends want to do? So what they wanted to do was, their biggest goal was to get more insights into consumers' shopping behavior. So they sent out a survey that asked people about their shopping habits. And as an incentive to people who filled out the form, they gave them a 500 rupees voucher to come to the store that they could redeem. We found that 50% of the vouchers that were distributed were actually redeemed. And that activity not just led to finding out consumer behavior, but it also led to a 3x return on the ad dollars spent. So certainly, we have examples across sectors, across verticals, where we are able to deliver great value driving business objectives.
Thank you.
Hi, Kirthiga.
Yes.
Kirthiga, this way. Yep.
2 questions. I'll do hers, and then I'll come to.
All right.
Is that okay? Yes.
Hi, Kirthiga. Shruti here. You talked about Facebook for everyone. That is very encouraging because I just wanted to understand if you face any challenges of inclusivity for persons with disability and accessing Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great question, and there are so many different dimensions that we have to focus on inclusivity, and it's a continuing effort of ours. I don't have anything specific to share specifically on disability, but there's also the whole ecosystem that's thinking about this, so it's not just Facebook. There are people who develop on our platform to try to solve those challenges, whether it's the visually impaired, is one example, but inclusivity is a big challenge. It goes back to the question even of pricing. You're thinking about the internet for every single one. There's an inclusivity barrier that comes on pricing. There's an inclusivity barrier that comes for languages. There's an inclusivity barrier for disabled. So we do have to think about it holistically, and it requires not just Facebook, but the entire ecosystem to come together to solve the problem. Kumar.
These are wonderful trends, actually, all 5 of them, you said. But what keeps you up at night, for example, when there is also, everyone is busy doing the social profile, as it were, so fact versus fiction, and in terms of privacy, all issues. What actually keeps you concerned, in these 5 trends, the journey that one is actually taking forward?
Yeah.
What would be 1 or 2 key concerns that you would have in mind, which you would, want to always be on guard?
Yeah. I would highlight the last one, because that is the catalyst for the first 5. It's when everyone has access to the internet that they can then leverage the power of the first 5. And in terms of the challenges, I think even the questions that have come up from this audience, I think 80% of the questions so far have come up around, okay, this is great, it's a great vision, but there are so many barriers for us to get there. And so that's the thing that keeps us up at night, our vision of making the world more open and connected, how do we get to the next billion, and how is it that we work together across the globe, private partnerships, public partnerships, NGOs, to make that happen.
Excuse me.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry we circled around before coming back to you.
Kirthiga, congrats for the nice presentation. Umesh with Aryant. My question is extension of what you had discussed about the Tata Docomo and the Reliance trends. So any success story if you can share on the real estate sector side using FB, social media kind of thing?
Yeah. I don't have a real estate example in India that comes to the top of my mind, but what I can, as an extension to that question, what we should be thinking about is how can the real estate sector use Facebook. There was a recent IAA seminar with real estate. You might have been there in that session. And I think the power, it goes back to the question that was asked about targeted reach. It's about all of the things that you can do to specifically find out the right target to reach with your message if you are a real estate owner, right? You, of course, have things like age group that you can target on, demographics. You also have things like, are they moving cities? Have they recently moved cities? Do they have a new job? Are there lifestyle events? Are they getting married? Do they have a baby? So it's that kind of lifestyle events that you can tap into when they are likely thinking about real estate, that then lets you have a very targeted message to a targeted audience to drive the kind of results that you can in real estate. So I hope you help us drive the next case study in the real estate sector.
Sure. Any success story from the international market in terms of real estate?
Not at the top of my mind, but one thing that I would encourage all of you who are looking at the marketing side is to look at www.facebook.com/business. It's a brand new portal that we have launched that helps share our case studies from across the globe. It's beautifully organized by vertical, by sector, by business objective, and it's something that I would encourage you to go look at. And I'm happy to follow up offline as well.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Hello. Kirthiga?
Yes.
Here.
Okay, left or right?
Middle, in the middle.
The middle, yes.
Actually, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi.
I have two mics. I have two people with mics.
Okay, so
yes.
Okay, I'm Anand here. I think a thing that you missed out on or you didn't talk about is the B2B space specifically.
Yes.
So is Facebook going ahead, is Facebook only for B2C, or there is something that you are doing for B2B space, especially influencing decision makers, thought leaders?
Yeah, no, great question. There are certainly many more examples in the B2C space than in the B2B space, but we certainly have seen people using the platform in the B2B space. And specifically what they have used is product solutions like custom audiences. What is that? No, that's actually the technology that I referred to when I said, can a retail store marry up their loyalty program and bring people back who haven't been on their store? So we are seeing people, like let's say it's a medical device company and they want to reach out to hospitals or to a group of physicians that they want to influence. Then they use their database and use that as a way to match onto who's on Facebook, what, again, different targeting capabilities, and be able to reach out them to drive the right kind of leads, the right kind of community building, or whatever the business objective is. So we have seen that in sectors like the example that I mentioned. We have seen that in tech companies, where there are tech companies. Actually, I would say that that's probably the biggest adoption, is tech companies that have a B2B aspect to them.
Okay, we'll make it last two questions in the interest of time.
So he was with a mic, no? Oh, there's a mic.
Okay. Can I ask? Okay. Vijay here. My question, okay.
Who has a mic?
Okay.
There,
Hi,
okay.
Yeah. My question, Vijay here. My question is more about the 99%. So
yes.
If you look at the journey, right, it started off with the telecom equipment manufacturers, then the crown got passed on to the telcos, and then it went on to the handset device makers, and finally we have app makers at the top of the pile who are ruling the reign. So as we continue this journey, do you see the same hierarchy continuing? Or do you see more leaders coming up? Or do you see some of these leftover guys? Like, for example, if you look at, good that you mentioned Qualcomm, but a lot of TEMs are not in the pinkest of the health. Do you not see some balance shifting towards the laggards, if I may say?
Yeah. I think the biggest shift that I see is from hierarchy to collaboration. The biggest thing that I see. It's underlying in a lot of the different questions that were asked, pricing, disability. It really the challenges in front of us are so huge. If a single company could solve it, if a single vertical could solve it, they would have solved it. The challenges of today are so huge that we're going to have to work across sectors, across verticals, across any hierarchy to make solutions happen to address these challenges. So that's the biggest trend that I see, collaboration across all of these sectors and verticals.
So you reckon the cannibalization is going to stop at some point of time?
It truly, I mean, just look at the examples. Right? I mean, even in the example that you spoke about, where you said it's going from operator to handset manufacturer to the app provider, if you look at internet.org and what has to come together for that, no one single person can solve that problem, no one part of that ecosystem. It has to be all of them working hand in hand to make that happen.
Okay, last question.
All right, last question.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Prabhakar this side. So, awesome presentation. Like everyone else has said that. My last question is to do with like it's a human endeavors in personal and business space. Okay, now digital from a medium of communication, it has grown to medium of creation also. Okay, so do you see a trend that it's self-fulfilling prophecy and the real impact in the real world will go down with this? I mean, will all become digital, like you said, 30% of people checking mobile on a dinner table, not good, but that's how it's happening. And with more and more focus, like 5 billion people out there whose life is not so, touched with that. And sorry to say that, but if they are doing the real work, like farming and like which is making the world move on, philosophical question, but still, I mean, do you think this trend will impact the real world in a way?
Great question. Every medium is a medium, and it's what we do with it that will truly leverage the potential of that medium. When you talk of farming, the example that comes to mind is that of like a farmer in Sangli. This was an Economic Times article where when the prices of turmeric went down, he used Facebook on the mobile device to collaborate with like 20,000+ farmers across the country to figure out what the problem was, supply and demand, and fix a problem that was impacting his livelihood, right? When you talk about people checking on the dinner table, I will tell you that my family knows much, my parents know much more about what's going on in my world, about what's going on with the children than they ever did, 3 years ago. So I think it's all a give and take, and it's all about how it is that we use the platform and how we use it for the small moments and the big.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirthiga. As a token of appreciation, we would request Rima and Amit.
Thank you, Kirthiga, for fantastic.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Such a fantastic presentation.
Thank you. All right.